Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today's layout is for Hip Kit Club. And I'm working with the August 2021 kits this month. So this layout will feature bits from the main kit, the embellishment kit, and also the colour kit. And it's Monday, so of course my assignment today is Mixed Media Monday. So I'll be creating a mixed media layout, which is right in my comfort zone. I absolutely love mixed media, so this is probably my favourite assignment of all of them. The colour kit this month consists of 3 ink pads by Catherine Paula Designs, and you also get the 6x6 stencil from Simple Stories Simple Vintage Lemon Twist collection. So I'm going to use all of those elements on this layout today. And I'm also using one of the subscriber exclusive cut files from August, and I've cut it from textured white cardstock. And I've done a bit of prep work as well. I've coated it with some clear gesso. I use Liquitex clear gesso. I've done that before sort of sitting down and hitting record for my process, just so that it had time to dry naturally. I don't like drying gesso on cut files with a heat tool because I find they warp and curl up at the edges. So I've just done that before sitting at my desk, and then I've just let that naturally air dry. So I start off by painting the sun rays on the cut file. I've used the yellow ink pad to start with, which is called Limoncello, and I've literally just dabbed it down on some paper, and then I've just added a little bit of water, and I'm sort of treating it as watercolour paint here and just adding it directly to that cut file. So I've started with the yellow in the centre and coming out, and I'm going to try and create an ombre effect with the ink pads. So I've gone from yellow, and then I've added a bit of the pink, which is Be Mine, to create an orange colour, and sort of done the middle of the sun rays with the orange, and then I'm finishing off the ends of those with the pink on its own, just trying to darken it off as you get further out from those sun rays. And you'll notice I go around once and then I reapply the inks to the cut file, and I think that's because I've used the gesso and I've obviously applied water. I've really diluted that colour, so as it dries it does get lighter on my cut file, so I have to apply 2 or 3 coats. If you were using the ink directly without the water, it would be a lot more vivid, but because I wanted to kind of blend the colours in, I've had to use the water, so that's kind of diluted it a bit. And then for the letters, the H and the T, I'm just using that Be Mine pink ink pad. Again, same technique, treating it as a watercolour, stamped it down onto some paper or some craft paper, and then I've just added a bit of water. And again with this, I add a couple of coats. I'm absolutely loving how this is looking already. I've painted the centre part of the cut file of those sun rays as well. I wasn't sure if I was going to use those or not, or leave those empty on the layout. So I've painted them to start with. It made sense because then all of my colours, kind of the yellows and the oranges, are in the same place, rather than doing the outside first and then trying to match up the ombre effect with the centerpieces later. So I've painted them all at one point, and then I decided that I didn't want to use the middle bits, but it doesn't matter. I'd rather have them there in case I had decided to use them. So I've popped that to side now to dry naturally. Like I said, I don't want to use my heat gun because it will make the edges curl up. So just pop that to the side whilst I work on my background. Again, I've prepped this paper with clear gesso before starting, and I've let that dry naturally on the page. And now I'm coming in with the blue ink pad that's called Something Borrowed, and it's a lovely bright vivid blue. So I'm using the packaging technique. I'm applying it to some plastic packaging and mixing it with some water and adding it to my background, and I'm spraying more water on it to help move that colour around. So I did the blue on its own first, and I've come in a second time and I've mixed a bit of the blue with the limoncello, trying to make a sort of marine green colour, just for a bit more variation in the tone on my background, to give it a bit more depth, a bit more interest. I don't just want it to be blue, I want to have sort of different areas of colours. And I'm going to continue to add water to this, bring in my paintbrush to kind of blend the edges out a bit so they're not such sort of stark finished lines. And just generally have fun and get messy with it, and just keep playing with it until I'm happy. Using the excess there to add some splatters. And it's just a case of trial and error for me with things like this. I will keep playing until I'm happy and until I'm sufficiently messy enough. So you can see there, I've skipped forward a bit. I let that dry naturally. Again, don't want my page to warp too much. So that is now dried. And I'm going to come in with some white splatters. This is white gesso that I've watered down here and adding those splatters. I prefer to use white gesso for my splatters as opposed to acrylic paint because I just find it sits on top of my background better. It doesn't soak in and that way it doesn't absorb any of the colour from my background. So I've added those splatters and popped that to one side to dry. Brought my cut file back in, now that's dry. And I've decided I want to make those colours a lot more vivid. So I'm using the ink pads directly now with some blending brushes. And this I probably could have done from the start because this works a treat. It makes that cut file so bright, so beautiful, so vibrant. So yeah, if you're going to try this, if you've got blending brushes, you can create an ombre effect really easily. The only difficulty I had was trying to recreate that orange. Obviously I'm not adding water, so I can't mix anything. But you can see that yellow already is much more vibrant. And I'm doing the same thing with the letters with the pink, just using that blending brush and going over them. These ink pads are really, really pigmented, I think. So you don't need a lot of the ink. A little bit goes a long way. So if you are going to use blending brushes, you don't need to press really hard. And I'd advise just dabbing the excess off on a bit of scrap paper first before applying it to your cut file or your background, whatever you're using it on, because they are really, really vibrant. Brought back in the H and the T and I wanted to add a bit of colour to those. So I'm kind of staying with the ombre kind of effect and theme here, just creating an ombre effect with the pink ink for those letters. I thought the white was just going to look really stark against all my colours. And I love how that is looking, so I'm really, really pleased with this one. And you can see here now that everything is dry how beautiful that has come out, and I love the look of those bright yellows and pinks against the blue background. It's just so striking. And this cut file is gorgeous and it gives you the perfect spot to add a photo in the middle there for the sun. So I've drawn around the centerpiece and then cut it out slightly larger so that I can adhere that directly to the back of my cut file. I'm just going to use wet PVA glue for this. It's watered down slightly in my fine liner bottle so that it doesn't clog, but I'm just going to use that and stick that down. And again, it's a blue photo, so lovely contrast against those pinks and yellows. And it's a photo of our recent summer holiday. It's my little boy in the pool. You can't really see too well here, but he's floating in the pool on a massive sort of rainbow glittered coloured rubber ring floaty. So it's perfect for a nice sort of summery bright layout. I'm going to raise the back there up on foam. I love to have lots of dimension on my layouts. So I'm going to add 2 layers of foam in the centre there, just to raise that photo up and create a bit of a shadow behind my sun, because of course that's what the sun does with things, isn't it? It creates a shadow. So I'm going to have bright areas and then I'm going to have that lovely shadowed area underneath my photo. And then I'm going to raise these letters up on foam as well. So I will stick the centre part of my photo down flat, obviously with that foam, and the backs of the letters, the H and the T, I'm going to stick those down flat as well, but I'm going to leave the sun rays, I'm not going to stick those down at all. I'm going to leave those so that they kind of fold up at the edges a bit, add a bit more dimension to the page. And then these letters will be raised up on foam as well, so another way to bring dimension to a cut file. And I'm just going to get that stuck down in the middle now. So now I've got my cut file and my photo down in place, I'm going to add a little bit more detail to my background. I've pulled out the stencil that you get in the colour kit this month and the Something Borrowed ink. I'm just going to go over the lemon slices with a blending brush again. I'm just applying some of that ink and that will come out darker than my background because it's not watered down with anything at all. And I'm going to do some slightly darker than others just for a bit of variation and interest. I'm going to have a couple sort of hanging off the bottom of the page there. I really love the effect of this. It just gives a bit more depth to that background, just another layer of mixed media. And of course I'm doing this sort of dry, just with a blending brush, so that doesn't need drying time or anything, so I can just carry on straight away. And the reason I've done this after adding my cut file is just because I wanted to see the area that would be covered by cut file and just have a few of those lemon slices subtly sort of scattered around the rest of my layout. This is a Vicky Boutin colour study pattern paper that we get in the main kit this month. As you can see, those flowers work perfectly with my colour scheme. So I'm just taking some time to cut out, I've got an orange, a yellow and a pink I think, and I also cut out one of the sort of open flowers that aren't really coloured. The idea was that I wanted to layer them as kind of like a 3D embellishment. So I take some time to cut them all out, and then I decide that the orange one is kind of too big for what I wanted. So I pop that to one side and I just use that smaller open one there, and I'm going to paint it orange. And I go to all this effort, and in the end I don't actually end up using this flower, but I thought I would keep this part of the video in just to show you another way of using your colour kit. It is fantastic, again, using as watercolours. You can use it to colour anything you've got, any embellishments or bits of pattern paper you've fussy cut. So because I want to layer these flowers, I needed to cut the yellow one down a little bit. It was the same size as the pink one and wasn't really working how I wanted it to. So I'm trying to just recreate the kind of jagged edge of the flowers, or of the petals, sorry, just with a pair of scissors here, just making it a little bit smaller so that it can sit nicely on top of that pink flower. So this is the point where I decide I'm not going to use that orange flower after all. So I've got my pink and yellow ones layered on the left there, and now I'm just going to work on building a couple of clusters. Don't want to go too mad with the embellishing because I really want my mixed media to be the star of the show. I really don't want to end up covering most of it up. I've gone to a lot of effort creating it and I really love how it looks, so I'm just going to keep my embellishment clusters small. So I'm just going through various bits and bobs from the different kits here, trying to pull out things that could work with my theme or colour scheme. My little boy's in the pool, so I've pulled out a couple of floaties, they work really well. I've pulled out the flamingo from the Simple Stories Sunkissed cardstock stickers there, and also a crab. I love little crabs, I think they're just the cutest. So I've pulled those out. I've pulled these florals out here from the Amy Tangerine Brave and Bold Puffy Stickers sheet, but I decided not to use those, and instead I swapped them out for the Vicky Boutin Colour Study ones. They've got some lovely gold leaves on. I thought the gold was just a nice touch to this layout, so I swapped those out and I stick to the pink and yellow ones. Just have a few of them over on the right hand side there behind my flamingo floaty. I've also put a flamingo over on the left there along with a lollipop. Those are from the Simple Stories ephemera pack. That is from the main kit. I've got also some sunglasses over there on the right from the same embellishment pack. And I'm using a couple of those butterfly stickers from the Vicky Boutin sticker sheet from the embellishment kit, and I love these. They are gold foiled and they're just like rainbow effect. They've got loads of different colours in, depending on which angle you look at them. They've just got different colours, and the same for that arrow you've just seen me stick down as well. It's gold, but in certain lights it's just got loads of different colours in it, so it's really, really pretty. I've also popped a sun up the top there. I've got a lovely sort of theme going on here with my little boy in the pool and the blue background. I just thought a sun would be a lovely touch up in the top there. That again is from that Simple Stories ephemera pack from the main kit. And I'm now just taking some time just to kind of curl up the edges of those petals for a bit more dimension on my page. And then once I'm kind of happy with where things are going to sit, I'm going to get them stuck down now, because if I add too much more, it will just be a nightmare trying to get it all stuck down. So I've also got a tiny couple of little bits on my H there. I've got one of the Vicky Boutin stickers and one of the chipboard hearts from the Sunkissed chipboard sheet. And a lot of this I'm raising up on foam pads for a bit more added dimension. I've also scattered the little gold dots from that Vicky Boutin sticker sheet around as well. I've got the gold tones on that butterfly and also on the leaves and the arrow I've brought in, and another butterfly I'm putting in there. So I wanted to continue the gold theme, so I've just popped a few of those gold dots around the edge, kind of to add as gold, sort of act as gold splatters. I'm just having a look to see what else I can pull out. I love this puffy sticker here from the Amy Tangerine Brave and Bold collection. It says little moments, big memories. And that works perfectly for this photo for me. So we'd been on holiday, we'd been to the beach this day, and we'd spent the whole afternoon on the beach, lovely glorious sunshine, and then as we were sort of thinking about heading off, we found this gorgeous little splash park just up the road. And my son wanted to stop, and so we did, and we thought, oh, we'll only be here 5 minutes, we'll just stop off so he can play in the pool with his floaty, and we ended up staying there well over an hour. So it wasn't sort of any big part of our holiday or a big day out, it was just simply, we're just going to stop here for a bit. So it was a little moment, but it was a big memory, like the sticker says, because he was just so happy and absolutely loved it, so I couldn't resist a few photos. Now I've decided, because I've got my sun up the top there, and obviously my cut file has a sun in it, I thought I needed some clouds. I love to have some clouds on either like a rainbow layout or if I've got a sky scene going on. So I've just cut a couple of clouds from some white cardstock. I'm distressing the edges to give them a kind of fluffy appearance, and I'm just very lightly adding a bit of that blue ink again with the blending brush, just so they're not too white. They'll help them to kind of blend into my background a bit, but also still stand out. It just gives them a bit more interest. And I'm going to raise these up on foam pads and kind of nestle them in amongst the sun rays. So I've done the one on the right there. You'll notice the one on the left, the position changes slightly from me making this layout to taking the photos, and that's just simply because when I went to take my photo, I decided I wanted the sun ray that's underneath it to actually be on top of it. So you'll notice the eagle-eyed of you that there's a little adjustment to that one. And we're almost done now. I'm just going to finish my layout off with some white splatters. So again, this is white gesso watered down on some packaging, just using a paintbrush to add all those splatters. I've covered my photos so that I don't get white on my son's face with my Hobbycraft card there. It's finally found a use for my loyalty card. And yeah, just adding these splatters to finish off, and then I will give you some close-ups. So thank you very much for joining me today. I will leave links in the description box below to the Hip Kit Club blog, where you can find more details about this layout, and also links to the kits I've used so that you can find out on the website how to subscribe. So thanks again very much for joining me today, and I shall see you next time.